Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, today I want to talk to you about the Oakland Chinatown and my family's legacy with the Oakland Chinatown. As you know, 1906 was the year when the big earthquake hit San Francisco, and the Chinese were being evicted out of San Francisco, and they wanted to shut down and do away with the Chinatown in San Francisco, and so they didn't let uh, the Chinese people return back to try and recover anything of any value, and they let the white scavengers, the white folks, go in and just literally pick through the rubble, steal all of the possessions, the few possessions that these Chinese men had. And so many immigrated or crossed over to the East Bay, Oakland, in fact, because my great grandfather had already started the Pacific Coast Cannery, and it was already in operation about 4 months already from what the historical records say. And so there was thousands. There were about 14,000 Chinese in San Francisco at the time, and they had to go somewhere. There were some that stayed in San Francisco out by where the Golden Gate Bridge would eventually be built, but back then it wasn't built, no bridge, and so it was just a really cold, undesirable place. And so a lot of the Chinese came over to Oakland, and it was my great grandfather opening his doors to the factory, and he had the money to help a lot of the fleeing Chinese men and the Chinese from San Francisco, and then to set up camps all over Oakland. In fact, the Oakland Chinatown at 8th and Webster is a very significant location. It is the center and the heart of Chinatown, the Oakland Chinatown. For those of you that have not been to Oakland Chinatown, 8th and Webster is the center of the business corridor for Oakland Chinatown, and also the four corners that uh, represent all of the families that were in power at the time. And you say, well, how did they buy it? Well, number one, they didn't purchase it in the beginning. It was undesirable land. We have to go back in history to look at what was there before Chinatown, and it was um, Alameda Tube wasn't there. The 880 freeway wasn't there. In fact, what was uh, in place of where the 880 freeway goes over the property was livestock yards. Yes, right down there in the Jack London Square. Before it wasn't the Jack London Square, it was a business district, and in a growing city, you have slaughterhouses and butcher shops, and that they provide the meat and the food to the city. And uh, just up until not that long ago, we still saw a lot of produce coming out of the warehouses there in the outside of the Jack London business corridor. But anyway, there were slaughterhouses, and the reason why they put the slaughterhouses there is because all the blood and all the fluids drained into the estuary close by and then out into the bay. And that was the norm back then, just like where the Giants play baseball, Cisco Park, Cisco Field. That one is, or was, there was Allen Meats in that area. And I remember back in the day, Allen Meats, they made hot dogs, hamburgers, and it was interesting because on one of the trips out to Hunters Point, when my dad was working out at Hunters Point, we went by the slaughterhouse, and they were marching in cattle in the early morning. And I remember asking my dad, "What's that?" He said, "Well, the cows go in that side. If you go to the other side of the building, the trucks bring out the hamburger meat that goes to the grocery store and your hot dogs. And as a young child, I think I was about 5, maybe 6 years old when he told me that. It's like, that's where that's where hamburger and hot dogs come from. I said, yeah, that's the meat going in, when it's alive, and then we get it when it's all packaged up. So anyway, um, it was an undesirable area down there at 8th and Webster, and all the way down into the warehouse area, the produce and warehouse zone. And like I said, there were several slaughterhouses, there were livestock pens. So the area was not desirable in terms of smell, the stench. And then they're discarding a lot of stuff from the animals. It's not like today where it's processed very differently. Back then, it was just tossed out into large uh, garbage receptacles and then hauled away and dealt with however they dealt with it back then. That's what they did. But a lot of those parts and pieces, the white man, we'll call it, the white society, uh, preferred only certain cuts of meat. And so a lot of stuff got thrown away. And those meats became the discarded free meat to the Chinese that were starving, that were hungry, and were being persecuted by the white society. And so out of a lot of those tossed um, uh, and discarded animal parts, pieces, intestines, and what have you, came a lot of Chinese dishes that were unique to Oakland. And uh, I can go back and I can pick them out because the family told me about it. That was some of the early conversations with my grandfather when he was alive, and up to a certain point. Then my mother would tell me a lot of things. My uncle Bob would mention things, and so there were a lot of little tidbits that I picked up along the way about a time that that I didn't exist, but yet did exist. And so that's how Chinatown got started. Was because it was an undesirable location. The smell and stench from the decaying matter from the slaughterhouses, plus the stockyard, doesn't smell very nice either. If you've ever been down the Highway 5 and go by uh, 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 Harris Ranch, yeah, you can smell Harris Ranch 2 miles away. So just imagine a stench like that, uh, but not quite that pungent because uh, remember, the stockyards back then had cattle, they had pigs, they had chickens, and goats, and many other types of animals that were slaughtered down in that warehouse district. And so uh, the four families got together. It was my family, the Liu Hing family, which had the Four Families Association, and so that represented four Asian families: the Liu family, the Chan family, Yi family, and Quan. So that was the four families for our family association. Then there were the Wongs, the Lees, and a couple of other family associations, but the four big ones. Now we were the group that were able to organize and purchase the property and really make the Oakland Chinatown a prosperous spot. And the other reason why the location, besides the obvious, it was also not too far from West Oakland, where the Pacific Coast Cannery was located. And so those folks could easily walk down and work at the cannery when jobs were available. So the many of the other locations, if you go back in history, they were burned down by races whites of Oakland back then. There was one at 19th and San Pablo, another one further down on 27th and San Pablo. And then we had the Oakland Chinatown, and then there was one over by the lake, all of which were racially removed at back in the early between the 1906 and 1910 predominantly, and they were harassed. We were harassed all the way up until 1941 when the 1882 Exclusionary Act, Chinese Exclusionary Act, was repealed along with all the other races um, documents that had been produced by the white society of the time. And so the Supreme Court ruled all of those races and illegal. And so even though we were, that opened the doors for many Asian Americans, it also closed a lot of doors. Like my cousin Bruce spoke about his father. He tried to get he was working for the electricians union, and they would not promote him. They had to promote, or they had to hire him, number one, shortly after the Civil Rights Act. And then they kept, before that, they kept him, or as they kept him, they only kept him at an apprenticeship level. So that was really the lowest pay, the minimum that they could do. So it was a very different society back then than it is today. But our family, along with 3 other families, were responsible for the creation of the Oakland Chinatown. And that's where many of the families first started that moved to Oakland, first started, because those were the encampments with tents that held people. They didn't hold businesses at first. They held population of people and tents that my great-grandfather spent his corporate money on to buy for the people that were suffering, the Chinese people that were being evicted from San Francisco and were being harassed by the white population of the time. So that's our legacy, the Oakland Chinatown, and that's why I am so proud of it. And back in my day when I was a very young person, I didn't understand what the meaning was of my family and my family's importance to the Oakland Chinatown community. And it wasn't until I got into my teens when my dad kept pointing out, well, there's your grandfather's gungsa, which is, the association, the family association. And I kept looking at that. It's like, really, that belongs to the family? And it's like, oh, why don't we do more with that if we're important? But one of the things that I always remembered, I can walk around all of Chinatown and everybody knew me. Restaurant owners, the waitresses, waiters, cooks, and even the market owners knew me, knew my dad. And so it made me feel very special, very different, because that was being recognized on the street, and you don't know who these people are, but you're recognized for being a family of power back then. And so it was very interesting. And then also there was being a high profile family for the Oakland Chinatown. I also had to maintain a standard, and as my grandfather said, do not ever embarrass the family. Never embarrass the family. And so that means don't do bad things, don't do stupid things, don't get in trouble with the law, don't embarrass the family. And I never did. And so today, I'm still proud of the Oakland Chinatown. I still go down there to shop as often as I can. But unfortunately, the sign of the times, it's really decimated our Oakland Chinatown, and a lot of businesses have closed up and gone out of business. And we need to reverse that trend. We need to reverse the crime. We also need to help these merchants during this very difficult time, and that's what I have planned. If things move forward with the recall for Mayor Sheng Tao, you're going to hear a lot more about it. So anyway, that's our legacy. Oakland Chinatown for my great grandfather Lu Hing. Uh, he's one of the main people that helped bring Oakland Chinatown to fruition back in 1906. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.